We've just heard from Panyaza Lusufi talking about what sort of prompted the ANC to bring this motion of no confidence. Was it premature? Was it widely consulted with the EFF to be able to make sure that there's a power sharing deal? So I've just taken you back 2 weeks ago. So let's hear now what Tania Campbell had to say, because she was booted out and she accepted it. But you must listen to this recording. She says, I might be back. And guess what? She's back, yo. But let's... What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome back to it, man. It's another episode of the Free Ride podcast. And this time around, it is the unfiltered truth. And I'm so happy to be back, yo. All right, man. I've been missing in action in this particular show, the unfiltered truths. I've been focusing a lot on interviews. So I want to say big ups and thanks to all my guests that have been part of the show in the last week or two. And of course, I want to say thank you very much to Bridget, who invited me to Yams. And of course, I got to speak to these interesting, amazing young people who are passionate about the arts and who gave us their music, who gave us a great performance at the Yams in Melville. And I was truly excited to have them then. And of course, Lally Boy and Dr. Allen, thank you very much to you guys also for sharing your stories about our history as South Africa. And of course, South Africa is a beautiful country filled with many, many stories that are untold. And big ups to you guys for doing that, for sharing and empowering our people about the history that we have as South Africa. All right. So also, I was also very excited to have these specific guests on the show last week, Saturday. It could not happen. I was down with flu. I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want to just, do a show that didn't really have much substance, and I didn't want to just, make other guys feel sick. So I want to appreciate and thank these guys, Piwe and Ekhuruleni from Soweto. They are artists. They invited me to Dobsonville. They wanted me to come and check out their setup in Soweto, in Dobsonville in particular, and I could not make it through. And also, another guy that was supposed to join me is Muhluri. Muhluri is a youngster. He's 21 years old. He's written a book about teenagers. He was supposed to be my guest also last week, Saturday. I could not make it through to him. Another gent who was meant to join me is Soweto Tsepiso, who was also meant to join me on the show. So I could have dropped 3 episodes this week, and I could not do it. So I thought, now that I'm feeling a bit better, I'm going to postpone some of these interviews to this weekend, and let me do an unfiltered truth. And of course, I will bring in my guests this weekend. I'll definitely make sure that I get in touch with them. I've got such a big lineup of guests, people that have reached out to me and said, Mzitana, we just want to be part of the Free Ride podcast. Please, 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 can you make sure we come on this podcast? And of course, the next couple of weeks, there's a couple of hip-hop artists. There's a speaker, a life coach, a relationship coach who's going to join us. She's an amazing lady who's going to tell us her story and her journey. I look forward to that. I've got a DJ, Miss Williams, who's going to join me. She's all the way in Maboneng. Oh my God, it's going to be interesting in the next couple of weeks. So anyway, I was tempted. Do not be surprised by the little swag that I got going on here. My daughters, of course, were saying, Dad, you at least wear a suit, be presentable, look good, try at least. So here I am once again in a suit. So, all right, so let's get into it, man. What is today all about? The show is all about the drama that is happening in local government. Local government has become a movie. South Africa is a movie, man. it is crazy up in here. So what happened? About 2 weeks ago in particular, the mayor of Ekhuruleni, Tania Campbel, was voted out of council, all right? Because the ANC felt that with their majority of about 79 seats, we're not happy with the service delivery in the city of Ekhuruleni. So they decided we're going to bring in a motion of no confidence. And of course, the ANC won that motion of no confidence. Tania Campbel was booted out. All right. So I want to make sure that I tell you exactly what happened in the last couple of weeks, because right now, Tania Campbel is back as the mayor of Ekhuruleni. It's crazy, right? But I'm sure you know this by now. But let me take you back a little bit. So let's listen to the ANC provincial chairperson, Comrade Panyaza Lusufi, who is the premier of Gauteng, as he tells us exactly what went down, all right? So the ANC had its own merits or its own beliefs as to why Tania Campbell needed to be booted out as the mayor. Remember what happened in Tembisa, the service delivery protests, people complaining that she took away the free kiloliters of water and free electricity that was given to the poorest of the poor. And of course, she came back and said, look, the poorest of the poor can apply for the indigent. They've got an indigent policy. So if you earn a certain amount, or if you are the poorest of the poor and you can prove that you are poor, you can, of course, apply for this indigent program and you'll be able to get the benefits. And so that's how it went down. So let's listen to Panyaza Lusufi. In this particular instance, he is the chairperson of the ANC. So he speaks with that cap on. So let's take a listen to him quickly. Let's do that. Boom!
Thanks for the opportunity. It's just unfortunate when the ANC is voted out by coalition government. It's democracy. When the ANC wins, it's the opposite. It's power hungry, corruption, and other things. I really feel that line is exhausted now. It's a tired line. You can't have a minority government. In Ekhuruleni, you all knew it was a minority government. The minority can't rule over the majority. So if the majority agreed to work together and put up a motion, and the motion was voted through democratic means, we should accept that as a democratic outcome rather than attach sentiments that are undemocratic. You can't just cry over spilled milk and have sour grapes. Reality is that democracy was exercised. We put a motion, convinced other political parties to join us, and they joined us, and they supported our motion.
So it remains.
We enjoyed our stay at opposition benches were very effective. Actually, it was the effectiveness of our role as an opposition party that attracted other parties to try to work with us, and accepted that. Even if it was one vote, it's democracy. A win is a win, regardless of.
So we've just heard from Panyaza Lusufi talking about what sort of prompted the ANC to bring this motion of no confidence. Was it premature? Was it widely consulted with the EFF to be able to make sure that there's a power sharing deal? So I've just taken you back 2 weeks ago. So let's hear now what Tania Campbell had to say, because she was booted out and she accepted it. But you must listen to this recording. She says, I might be back. And guess what? She's back, yo. But let's take a listen to what she had to say, man. Let's do this. Boom!
Over until it is. There has to be another council to vote in a new mayor, or who knows, you might see me back again. But yeah, our plans are there to make sure that we do everything we can to possibly to stabilize this city. We do not feel the corrupt coalition is the way to go in the city. And the Super 7 are part of that corrupt coalition. And we certainly don't want our residents to suffer for another 21 years the way that they did previously. We've only been in government for 11 months. And if you see what we have achieved, and achieved a lot within that time frame, that is the trajectory that we are on.
All right, so that's what went down in Ekhuruleni. Of course, Tania Campbell predicting that she might be back. And of course, right now what I want to do is that I want to have a look at some of your comments on social media. A lot of you had a lot to say. And of course, I want to take a look at some of the comments that came through. And of course, before I do that, I want to take a look at what some of the media houses were saying regarding what went down yesterday when Tania Campbel was voted back as the mayor of Ekhuruleni. All right. So Ekhuruleni Metro remains without a mayor following the postponement of a special council meeting on Thursday. The EFF and the ANC have deadlocked agreeing on which party should hold mayoral seat in the municipality. The ANC in Ekhuruleni has fueled speculation on whether an agreement could be reached, with a party insisting it would file a candidate. So the ANC decided, Mzwandile Masina decided, the caucus of the ANC decided. I'm not sure if the provincial leadership was part of this decision, but that's something that I'm going to read comments from you on social media. The ANC in Ekhuruleni says Mzwandile Masina did not withdraw from the mayoral race to pave the way for the election of an EFF candidate to lead the Ekhuruleni mayor, the Ekhuruleni Metro. So basically, according to what went down 2 weeks ago, Mzwandile Masina decided that he's not going to field his name. He said that he was a candidate at 2011 elections, 2021 elections, and because they had lost, and you'll see the next clip, he decided that he's going to make sure that the next candidate gets fielded as a mayoral candidate. So Masina declined to be nominated by the ANC because he felt that it would be better for a new layer of leadership to emerge in the party. And the ANC in Ekhuruleni said on Thursday in a statement, talks of Masina not standing as mayoral candidate emerged on Wednesday during the Ekhuruleni council sitting. The session failed to elect the mayor because the EFF and the ANC could not agree on a candidate. Remember, this happened 2 weeks ago. Then there was another meeting that was held. Then they were at loggerheads with each other, and that meeting collapsed. And then a week later, another meeting was called by the speaker. And then because this meeting has now set yesterday, this is where Tania Campbel won as the mayor of Ekhuruleni. All right, so a special sitting has to be called in 7 days following the postponement. So because they postponed up until yesterday, which is Wednesday, the meeting was then convened. The EFF and the ANC have been negotiating a coalition partnership for Gauteng's 3 metros. The DA councillor Tania Campbel was removed as mayor in a motion of no confidence. At the Ekhuruleni sitting on Wednesday, there were disagreements between the ANC Gauteng provincial leadership and the region on whether an EFF candidate should be supported. Some ANC members showed reluctance to supporting the EFF candidate for mayor, and the region believes a candidate should come from the ANC and not the opposition. Why? Because the EFF has not won a single ward. The EFF has no majority in council. The EFF has no majority in council. So, and that's why the ANC felt, no, we've got 70-something wards, and therefore we've got the majority of seats in the House. But I would have thought that, in order for things to make sense, is that, and this has been coming out in the media for the last probably month or so, that there was an effort by the EFF and the ANC to take back power from the ANC metros, as I've alluded in this article, that firstly, they were going to negotiate Johannesburg to say, okay, the EFF and the ANC will stand together, vote together, and make sure that the ANC takes power from the DA. Up next would be the city of Ekhuruleni, and there would be a power sharing agreement there, and that the EFF would then take over as mayor. And then maybe when they go to, but then the split would be that the EFF leads as a mayor, and then the ANC probably would take over as speaker, the executive led by the EFF, and the legislature led by the ANC, so that the ANC holds the executive to account, or the legislature holds the executive to account. But that never worked out because they were loggerheads with each other. All right. So The assertion that Masina has withdrawn to pave the way for an opposition leader has no basis and begs clarification. The decision by Masina not to stand for a second term is the result of engagement with the ANC caucus on the necessity for a different candidate within the organization to stand as a means of allowing a second layer of leadership to emerge, the ANC Ekhuruleni said. The region statement indicates that it is steadfast in its belief and it should be allowed to run the city. So the region believes that it should run the city. A partnership with EFF in Ekhuruleni could give the ANC enough support to form a majority. The EFF is understood to want control of the metro and is unwilling to support the ANC from the sidelines. All right, so what did the ANC say? The ANC in Ekhuruleni will be putting forth a candidate from the organization to contest for the mayorship, while Masina will remain in the caucus. There is no merit for concern that this would create two centers of power, a debate that has long been settled. The ANC is the sole center of power, and those it deploys into leadership do not lead with their mandate, but with their organization's mandate, said the ANC. All right, so this was at least 2 weeks ago, all right, after they failed to agree with the EFF, all right. So, what else happened in a build-up to all of this? I want to be able to share that with you. So, this fight continued up until yesterday, and there's a media statement that I want to share with you, which came from the ANC caucus. All right, so I will do that in a short while, but let's take a look at some of what the media continued to say about what happened in Ekhuruleni, because it was extremely confusing. Everybody, including some of the comrades, had agreed and thought the EFF was going to run the show, and then the ANC was going to hold the EFF to account. All right, so one of the headlines here says Ekhuruleni Mayor Campbell to face a motion of no confidence. Less than a year into a role as executive mayor of Ekhuruleni municipality, Tania Campbell is facing the vote of no confidence. Following the victory, Campbell said, "It does show you there is confidence in me, but also it shows that the majority of council actually wants work to happen and wants stability within the city." ANC does not. The ANC in Ekhuruleni said it has no regrets for filing of motion of no confidence against Campbell, despite eventually failing to remove her from her position. This was yesterday. The ANC Deputy Chairperson Dlabata said they failed to reach a consensus with parties at the last minute. They said the parties who voted to re-elect Campbell as the mayor have let the people of Ekhuruleni down. They all agreed with us that indeed the situation was dire and enabled the process of removing the mayor. It was quite rather shocking that they actually enabled a process of restoring back the mayor, who they actually agreed with us that indeed under her watch the city had collapsed. Jongizizwe Dlabati, who was the mayoral candidate who was defeated yesterday at what went down yesterday at the Ekhuruleni council meeting that saw the DA regaining power. And of course, very shocking. A lot of comrades were surprised to see what went down in Ekhuruleni. And of course, I want to play you two clips. One is the DA mayor, Tania Campbell, press briefing, and of course, thanking all the opposition parties for making sure that they win, and also what the ANC had to say. And these are the two guys, Mzwandile Masina and Jongizizwe Dlabati, at a press briefing. And let's take a listen to them. Let's do that. Boom!
To thank all the coalition partners with that voted with us, and we stood strong. We had a plan. We still have a plan, and that is to serve the residents of Ekhuruleni. It is a pity that 2.5 weeks has been wasted, where emergency plans have to be put in place for service delivery. However, we will be hitting the ground running. Plans will carry on with service delivery. And yes, I must also thank parties in council that voted for us. And I am humbled that people have put their faith in me. The amount of messages from residents, from communities that we have received is overwhelming during this period. But we take service delivery seriously.
We then felt strong that we could accept the motion of co-governance on the basis that we did not get enough support as the African National Congress. And when we tabled the proposals on the motion of on the co-governance, all our proposals, I think they were shot down. They were not acceptable. And we felt that as a party that is in charge of 76 wards out of 112, it would be irresponsible of us not to then field our candidate. The deputy chair, Comrade Johnny, was fielded as our candidate. As you'll know that we explained last time that I was the mayoral candidate as of last year, November, but we lost the elections then to the DA-led coalition. And then we thought that it would be prudent as part and parcel of our own renewal process in the ANC to allow the new leaders in government to come in.
You heard for yourself from Tania Campbel as well as the ANC's leadership. Here's a statement that comes from the ANC leadership. Says the ANC Ekhuruleni caucus statement on the outcome of the extraordinary council that was convened to elect the executive mayor. Despite the unfavorable outcome, the ANC Ekhuruleni caucus takes pride on its role of being effective in opposition. The substantive motion of no confidence that was tabled against the weakest DA executive mayor was a confirmation that a leadership is taking down the city of Ekhuruleni. The motion was successfully tabled in council, and indeed, we were vindicated on our conclusion that the city is in a dire state after the removal of the DA-led executive mayor Tania Campbell 2 weeks ago. Ours is to save communities from the hardships they're experiencing under the DA-led coalition. We remain committed in ensuring strong oversight, working along with communities. Despite the setback, we will not hold back in representing the aspirations of the people, even on the opposition side. The ANC caucus expresses its gratitude to all political parties who voted in favor of the ANC-nominated candidate, Keda Jongizizwe Dlabati. Through our candidate, we were giving the people of Ekhuruleni a public representative who is fit for a purpose and who, without a doubt, could provide the much-needed leadership in the city. Sadly, the white minority DA was enabled once more to preside over the city. The manner in which political parties voted did not expose the parties that are genuinely on the side of the people of Ekhuruleni. The ANC caucus is firmly on the people of Ekhuruleni, with whom the DA coalition government will continue to be subjected to the overall state of poor service delivery, especially in our townships. Worse, the city is in a state of collapse only after the DA coalition took over in less than 11 months. We do not change our principle depending on what we stand to benefit. Hence, we are firm in our commitment of socio-economic upliftment of the people of the city. Furthermore, we are steadfast in building better communities. Disappointing as it may be, communities must be assured that our spirit is high and that we are determined to represent them throughout. We are further encouraged by the overwhelming support coming across many sectors of society and our quest to save the municipality of Ekhuruleni from spiraling downwards. This has been issued by the ANC Ekhuruleni caucus. All right, so that's the ANC's response. Of course, you've seen the video earlier on, and the multi-party also issued its own statement. And of course, let me take you through what has been written about by various people within the media, giving their own opinions as to what happened between the ANC and the EFF, why they were at loggerheads with each other, why they could not agree. Because it made sense, like I said earlier, that you've got three metros, you've got the EFF and the ANC, you negotiate and say the one takes power in terms of the executive, the other one takes the legislative power, in which you are able to then hold the executive to account. So that makes sense. So, but let's see what other sectors of our community view this, especially the media community. All right, so the ANC and the EFF were at loggerheads about who should govern the Ekhuruleni Metro, which led to the Red Berets using their votes to reinstate the DA's Tania Campbel as mayor during an extraordinary council sitting in the Civic Centre council chambers. So when the vote of confidence was passed, the EFF actually folded their arms. They did not participate. They did not vote the mayor out. And then the negotiations, the loggerheads, the EFF wanted to bring their candidates. And then this time around, the EFF voted with the DA to bring the DA back in power. So it just doesn't make sense, yo. All right, so the first indicator that a partnership between the ANC and the EFF would not be formed in the city of Ekhuruleni was the governing party's decision to field a candidate for a mayoral position. And the second was when the Red Beret withdrew their candidate. Now, think about it. Like I said earlier, so the EFF says, no, we are not going to vote over this vote of no confidence against the mayor. We are going to fold our hands. But when it comes to bringing a candidate to stand as a mayoral candidate, the EFF says, we have a candidate that we want to bring forth. And then the ANC is like, how? But you did not participate, got the vote of no confidence. Now you want to bring a candidate. Now we must vote with you. So I don't know what is going on at a provincial level and as far as national level between the ANC and the EFF, all right? So the first nomination at the extraordinary council meeting on Tuesday morning was that of the DA's Tania Campbel. Then the EFF fielded the Gauteng chairperson Nkululeko Dunga, whilst the ANC put forward the name of its caucus chief whip, Jongizizwe Dlabati, for the mayoral position. Dunga initially accepted being nominated, but later rescinded this. This meant that the EFF had two options. One, to abstain or vote with the DA to keep the ANC away from the mayoral chain. The Red Beret chose the latter, which saw Campbell being reinstated by an overwhelming majority. Along with the EFF, the DA and its coalition partners garnered 124. So the DA and the EFF had 124 votes. Dlabati received 99 votes, all right, with one spoiled ballot. This comes after the council failed to elect the mayor last week due to the EFF and the ANC collapsing their discussions. So they could not agree. Speaking to the media after the council session, Dunga explained why he withdrew. So this is the EFF mayoral candidate. He also denied voting with the ANC despite the tally showing otherwise. We withdrew. So this is what Dunga says. He says, we withdrew the condition that the material conditions are not favorable for an EFF candidate. Having looked at both the DA and the ANC fielding a candidate, we were very clear that the EFF will field a candidate, and we furthermore appealed to the consciousness, but also the political and ideological understanding that the councillor meeting will come to accept a mayoral candidate of the EFF. In 2021 local elections, show the basis of our contestations of elections was to govern. This posed an opportunity for us to at least make a meaningful contribution towards governing. All right, so the EFF was adamant that they wanted to have their candidate because their candidate was a mayoral candidate, and therefore it made sense for them to field them. But when they looked at the numbers, they realized that the EFF does not have the numbers, and therefore they went to bed with the devil that they know, or the devil that they trusted. So anyway, that's what went down. The EFF gave the DA power once again. So I want to look at what you guys had to say on social media before I turn to Joburg briefly, because it now makes you wonder what's going to happen in Johannesburg. Will the EFF stand with Tata Morero as mayor, like we have seen in the last 2 weeks? So, or will they be influenced by the outcome that comes from Ekhuruleni that said the ANC voted against or they did not agree with the EFF, and therefore the EFF went with the ANC, and therefore the EFF naturally would not go with the ANC in Johannesburg. So we'll look at that in a short while. But let's take a look at what you guys have to say. Mudiba says the EFF are the kingmakers of South African politics, whether we like it or not. If you fail to agree and negotiate with the EFF, you will lose everything. The ANC must open their eyes. Scroller says the EFF disrupted seating proceedings after the ANC nominated Jongizizwe Dlabati. All right, so at this point, before I continue with all your comments, there's a guy whose voice note I want to play, and he, of course, has a different set of understanding. He's got a different view, and it's his view. And who am I to say that his view should not be played on the show? So let me make sure that I play you his inputs, and you get to decide what you think about what went down. And of course, a lot of people are concerned about the state of our local government politics, because it is extremely worrying that politicians at this point are, playing a game of some sort. And they are playing a game with the lives of our people. All right, so you ready for it? Let's take a listen to what this guy had to say about the outcomes of Ekhuruleni. All right, let's take a listen.
The comrades, the ANC must just take a decision to suspend Mzwandile, particularly that he is the one that nominated Jongi against the decision of the PEC of the ANC. He's the one. I know for a fact, comrades, that I've got people inside the municipality, and this information I got from people that were inside the council that Mzwandile nominated Jongi against the decision of the PEC or the decision of the two organizations in terms of what is going to happen. So this Mzwandile guy must just be suspended. He can't be defying the ANC. He insulted the leadership of the ANC when he was there with Zuma, dying for Zuma and so on. Now all of a sudden he's the same person now that defies the same ANC. For up until when the ANC is going to be tolerating this guy, man?
There you hear it. People are divided on what went down in Ekhuruleni. This is just one view from one guy. And of course, I continue to look at some of your comments on social media. Some people are very disappointed in how the ANC conducted itself, or the leadership of the ANC conducted itself. Pule Lichwi Jones says the EFF mayoral candidate Nkululeko Dunga has withdrawn from the mayorship race in Ekhuruleni after the ANC pronounced Jongizizwe Dlabati as their preferred mayoral candidate. The ANC is now asking for a short caucus break. Now, there are pictures, there are videos, there are, comments that the ANC and the EFF have been having discussions around metros for the past couple of months. They've been talking about it. what happened in Ekhuruleni does not make sense. How on earth can they go into a council meeting, which was a special council meeting, where they had discussed and agreed that this council meeting should sit and it convenes, and that both parties were not aware of what would go down? Like, it doesn't make sense. All right, so it was expected that the EFF's Nkululeko Dunga would become the city's next mayor following negotiations between the EFF and the ANC. So it was expected. By who? By the public, or by the ANC, or by the EFF? Dunga withdrew his nomination after accepting it. This was after the ANC nominated Jongizizwe Dlhabati for the position. Dlhabati is currently the chief whip of the ANC in the region, and one of the party's youngest candidates for the position. Brahloni says the ANC stands to lose everything. EFF will simply fold in its arms in Ekhuruleni. They must forget about removing Popalat via a motion of no confidence. Fighters will fold their arms. The ANC is power greedy as DA pulled a stroke that broke the camel's back by fielding a candidate. But now, some people are also asking to say, but now when the EFF give votes to the DA, their demands are not as stringent as that of the ANC when they negotiate with the ANC. So why is the EFF like that? Who knows? Sizwe Dlomo says, Kodwa, what was the ANC trying to do? Ekhuruleni is shaking my head. This is the silliest shit I've ever seen, says Sizwe Dlomo. Kenny Kunene jumps on this as well, says 3 mayoral candidates nominated in Ekhuruleni. Yeah, ne? It's a movie there. Olani says, sad part about this is that the masses will suffer due to their greediness and shame. Busula says, are your popcorns ready? And anyway, let's continue to look. Audrey Masemola says, breaking news, the EFF has voted with the DA for the very same mayor that was removed has retained her position, the ANC Ekhuruleni comrades. Can you please tell us what was your strategy? Terence Mlangeni says, the EFF voted with the DA Ekhuruleni. Tania Campbel has returned their chains. Our Ekhuruleni comrades must tell us what was their strategy. So these are comrades who are in the trenches of the ANC, who are also confused as to what Ekhuruleni caucus was trying to pull off. All right. Brahloni says, the ANC stands to lose everything. Okay, so I read that one. Kuto Mama Bolo says, Mpopalatsi can now rest assured that she will survive the next monk after what the ANC did in the Ekhuruleni Council today. They shouldn't have fielded a candidate to contest for mayor. This thing was simple. Give Ekhuruleni and take Johannesburg. Now they will have nothing. Kwena Mulekwa says, probably by the end of today, Ekhuruleni will be a EFF-led EFF municipality. Bylaws will be a thing of the past. Black children will occupy all unoccupied land. Black industrialization and economic emancipation in our lifetime. A socialist metro, Bagiti. This is Kwena Mulekwa. Clearly, this was before the council meeting and before the voting took place. Tania Campbell has been elected back as the mayor of Ekhuruleni with 124 votes and 99 for the ANC's Jongizizwe Dlhabati and 1 spoiled votes. All right. So back at it again, Kenny Kunene says the EFF withdrew their candidate. I think the EFF will vote for the DA candidate, Tania Campbell. Crazy. So that's what went down in Ekhuruleni. And of course, there's some long debate that took place in Facebook. And I don't know if I should read it, man. It is long discussions on Facebook. So it is just a commentary that came. So I'm not going to read the whole long thing that has been written by Papano Pasha, but I'm definitely going to read parts of it because I found it interesting. And what was even interesting was the comments that came from her post. Papano Pasha says, the ANC in Ekhuruleni is providing the necessary and comfortable leadership we need in the ANC. The EFF didn't win a single ward in Ekhuruleni. It has no mandate whatsoever from the electorate, and the ANC as a political party has no business imposing the EFF to the electorate. Perhaps the EFF means well with their appetite to govern, but they must contest political power and gain the trust of the electorate. Those who want to give power to the EFF through the back door don't have a leg to stand on. And many of us who are calling for a renewed ANC, starting at branch level, must ensure that we convince our comrades that we need to reposition the branches as strategic centers of power and not cosmetic arrangements which are weakening the organization even further. As our mayoral candidate, Comrade Jongizizwe from Ekhuruleni postulated, we do not change our position depending on what we stand to benefit. We as the ANC have legitimate right to claim mayorship of Ekhuruleni, and our claim is based on the will of the people, the electorate in their majority overwhelmingly voted for us. So as our ANC mayoral candidate, Jongizizwe from Ekhuruleni postulated, I read that part. We as the ANC have a legitimate right to claim our mayorship in Ekhuruleni, and our claim is based on the will of the people. The electorate in the majority overwhelmingly voted for us, but we are undone by the electoral system. So ours is to go back and look at the limitations of the system and also accept that the ANC branches, which are the ones that give us a state power, are no longer strategic centers of power because they have been weakened. It is the branches that put the ANC into power. Those in power are not serving the branches. In fact, the ANC branches are always the last to know what is truly happening in government. It is not the EFF or any opposition party that has given us the custodianship to lead. Yet, despite the reality, we are obsessed with coalitions rather than strengthening branches, which are at the cold face of service delivery to the millions of African people who overwhelmingly vote the ANC into power with the hope that it will change their lives. All right. So anyway, in response to Papano's comments, Warabile Mukaila says, Papano, you lack a giraffe view. You lack a giraffe view. I've never heard that in politics. As far as SA politics go, you are simplistic in your approach, and your myopia will be your downfall. Your leadership approached the EFF, knowing very well that no party won local government elections. In some of the metros and in some local municipalities, hence, they engaged the EFF for power sharing. All what had to happen was for the ANC to share power and not behave like racist, arrogant DA. But sadly, for the dwindling ANC, is that desperation to lead at all costs clouded their judgment, and as a result, they are going to lose it all because they are uncultured and unprincipled. It will be worse in 2024. No new dawn will rescue the ANC. All right, so those are just some of the comments I wanted to look at. Okay, there's a lot that has been said in response to what Papano was saying. Walter Lingau, I'm going to read two more responses and then I'm going to let this one go. If the EFF wants to hold these positions in your negotiations, it is a problem in order for the ANC to hold power again. And what exactly did you agree to hold on to power again? And what exactly did you agree with wanting this thing of dreaming and dreams is very slowly, and unemployment and services need to be fast track so that our people to gain momentum of lifestyle. Okay, not gonna read that any further. Madlenko C says EFF is treating ANC very well. They are gaining a lot of ground support. Every time they expose the ANC, it is of greed and arrogance. I do not agree with the EFF, but on this one, they are doing great, and I wish they can teach the ANC a lesson again in Johannesburg. Mtia says the ANC must be voted out of power in 2024. Our country is collapsing because of poor leadership of the ANC come 2024. All right, so there you have it. I've given everybody's views, and maybe my last point as I depart from this conversation. Look, I did write this about probably 4 months ago, that coalitions are going to be a biggest problem in governance in the country, that coalitions are the biggest Achilles heel when it comes to service delivery. Coalitions only slightly worked in Cape Town because the DA had an overwhelming majority. And the parties who served with the DA at the time accepted the big brother role that the DA was playing over them and the bully role that the DA was playing with them. We saw it in Johannesburg when some of these parties started crying about the bullying role that the DA plays. So but decided, no, we are not going to agree with this. We saw Action SA saying things that they said against Helen Ziller, the fight that was spewing on social media. The DA is a bully, the DA is power hungry, and said all sorts of negative stuff against each other. Okay, it's the nature of coalition. One person has more power, especially when that person or that party has political power, as in the executive role, as in the mayor, and has the majority of the MMCs in the executive mayor's office. And then you also have the same party having more people in the legislature and running the legislature. So you have the same party being the speaker, being the chair of chairs, and having the most of that party's chairpersons as chairpersons of portfolio committees. It becomes a power struggle that is not being able to be corrected or being fixed. And that is why it's been collapsing so many times. It's only been 11 months of power of the new governments being formed across the country. But you can already see that each party is pulling in its own direction. So cry, beloved country, because you as a resident are going to suffer the most. Your grandmother is going to suffer the most. You might suffer the most. You might not get the correct billing. You might not have those potholes fixed. Your car might hit a pothole. You might be in an accident because the robot was ran off and it hasn't been fixed. We've been seeing that service delivery has been a mess across Ekhuruleni and Johannesburg. Drive around and see what the state of these cities look like. So there is no overall leadership. And the leadership of the city in terms of those who are employed as officials, batovele badule and take a back seat and look at the politicians fighting for power. And remember, the ones that are controlling the purse, it's normally your city manager, your CFOs, your executive directors, your chief operating officers. The cities are top heavy. They are top heavy in terms of all the people that are employed as officials within these municipalities. These people, generally, they either, the city manager comes with a new political office, with a new mayor, with a new party in charge. They replace. We've seen what's happened in the city of Johannesburg since Mazole Dlamini, in the city of Johannesburg, a city manager, and then came the guy from it's a vendor guy, I'll think of his name. He was brought in 2016 by the DA. He was fired in 2019. 2019, he could see that he was not going to stay long. Floyd Brink came in as the acting city manager, and things just kept changing like that. Until now, we still don't know who the exact city manager is in Johannesburg. So it brings the stability within the cities, and parties should have done this long ago. And I've seen portions or parts of leaders saying this in their statements, that perhaps the ANC needs to have a subcommittee that looks at how to deal with this matter of coalitions. This was something that was actually said by Jacob Zuma probably about 5 years ago, to say coalitions are going to happen. There's a strong drive towards government not having an ANC in majority, and government being a government that is led by a coalition, and what are the problems that it would bring. Jacob Zuma predicted it. He predicted it. But the parties itself did not sit and look at coalitions and say, what is our policy when it comes to our policy position, when it comes to how we manage the issue of coalitions? What is the standard operating procedure for us when we come into a coalition? If we have 50% of the votes, or let's say we have 49% of the votes, and we have to govern in a coalition, what does a 49% mean for us? Who do we speak to? Do we look at a 30%? Do we look at a 20% party? Do we look at other smaller parties with 2%, 1%? How do we approach them? There must be a standard operating procedure around how we handle coalitions. We saw how the DA took over in last year, 2021. They had to sit back. They had to think about how they form a new coalition, let alone that they had been governing Cape Town under a coalition for a very long time until they have an overwhelming majority. But now, come to Johannesburg, they go back to the drawing board. They don't have anything on paper to say, when we go and meet our coalition partners, this is what we show them, this is what we accept, this is how we form a new coalition agreement, and then how we move along. Although in Johannesburg, in 2019, there was a government of national unity between the ANC, the AIC, the IFP, and other smaller parties, they had come to some form of an agreement as to how they will co-govern in Johannesburg, and they shared power amongst themselves. It kind of worked. It did work, but it also made things difficult, because now when you go into an election period, it becomes now difficult as to who then now claims the successes of that municipality, who then takes responsibility for the failures of that municipality. When the 2021 elections came about, it was extremely difficult for the ANC to claim achievements around housing. It was difficult because the IFP was responsible for it. It was difficult for it to claim any achievements or failures within housing. It was very difficult for it to claim any successes around transport or JRA, roads, etc. Because there were potholes, robots were broken. Who now takes responsibility? Because the members in charge of that portfolio committee was the IFP. So it makes it difficult for coalitions to take responsibility, and it makes it difficult for them going into an election to take responsibility and to claim successes. So who loses in the end? You lose in the end. You, as a voter, lose in the end. The fact that you don't show up to go and vote, the fact that you don't encourage your family members to get up and go and vote, the fact that many of you think that voting is a waste of time, then what happens is that you will have sewer running down your front yard. You will have your street lights right in front of your house being broken. You will have potholes as you drive out of your house. You will not have street markings or road signs. You will have broken road infrastructure that does not get replaced, fixed. You will have an incorrect billing system. Every time you get reading, your electricity reading, whether you're on prepaid, you're going to face the same problems because there is no concerted, strong leadership that comes with a plan to take over a municipality, to say we've got 5 years to govern. These are the things that we are going to fix, and we stick by these things, and we are going to fix them. And every quarterly, we are going to review how far we have gone, and we are going to review all the performances that we are taking through. So my quest as the Free Ride podcast, and of course the Unfiltered Truth, what I'm going to attempt in doing going forward, I'm going to try and break down the city of Johannesburg. There are too many cities, so I'm not going to look at all of them, but I will probably take a leap into what the Auditor General has said in terms of the performances of the municipalities, and I will try and break down things so that some of you understand. I understand that a lot of young people have no interest in government, let alone what happens at a local government level. You don't see the necessity of voting. And of course, I'm going to try and break down things like the elections that happen so frequently. I mean, you've just come from the 2014 elections. Before that, it was 2011 election, 2009 elections. Then it was 2011 local elections. Then it was 2014 national elections and provincial elections. Then it was 2016 local government elections. Then it was 2019 national and provincial elections. Then it was 2021 the local government elections. Now we're going into 2024. So you as a voter, you are probably exhausted. You are saying, mara ke votile not so long ago. Ke votile not so long ago. So you're probably just getting tired against it. And that is why the apathy among young people is actually steadily growing. So young people don't find an interest in it. And so I'm going to try my best to try and educate you. And of course, the IEC's role and responsibility in between elections was supposed to do that, to make sure it educates and it empowers people with the knowledge of why the frequency of elections and why this election is taking place and why this by-election is taking place. There's also been a few by-elections taking place, councillors who have resigned, councillors who have been fired, and I'm sure you're just getting tired of not understanding what is going on with all these elections. So I think I may have tried to break it down in a sense that you will understand what's going on at Ekhuruleni and Johannesburg. On the 20th of this month, we are hoping that a motion of no confidence, well, if I'm saying hoping, another movie, a sequel that is going to take place will definitely happen, where a vote of no confidence will be passed or a vote of no confidence will be brought to council. So after what happened yesterday in Ekhuruleni, the ANC in Johannesburg, the ANC in Gauteng must definitely be folding its arms right now, folding its sleeves, making sure it talks to the EFF, apologizes to the EFF, finds a way that an EFF in Johannesburg can find an expression in working with the ANC in Johannesburg and not look at the ANC in Ekhuruleni and say, because Bakurile gara, we will not accept what went down in Ekhuruleni, and therefore this is the position we take. But knowing the EFF, God knows what's going to happen. Look, everyone is to blame. Politicians are to blame. All of them are to blame because South Africa is going downhill. As Sizwe and others have said, that it's spiraling down. And it's a concern for all of us. Unemployment is high. It's shooting high every single day. We don't know what's working and what's not working. And we just want to see an efficient government that puts the interest of its people first. All right? So from me, Msitana, Lekhurutmani, Autiago Kasi, Kere, Bafwetu. This has been an incredible session. It's a learning experience for me as well. And of course, I hope I could impart that knowledge. And thank you very much to all of you who keep liking, sharing, posting on this platform. I appreciate you, man. I'm out, man. Boom!